Greetings, I'm Solidus-Skully, and welcome back to another bitchfest of Ratchet Deadlocked. In today's episode, we're heading towards the Valix Asteroid Belt, where it seems that another Dread Zone challenge awaits. And hopefully I'll do a little bit less bitching about the game, and actually try and tell people why I like Ratchet Deadlocked. I swear to God I enjoy the game. Please don't dislike me. Don't leave me.
We're live today from the Valix Asteroid Belt, home of the legendary Gamma Energy Beam. This famous space beacon was purchased several years ago by Gleeman Vox. Now, instead of guiding ships through deadly asteroids, it's the centerpiece of Dread Zone's hottest new battle course. And just for fun, we've gone ahead and turned the beacon off. Can Team Darkstar turn it back on, or will hundreds of ships crash blindly into the asteroids? Either way, it's gonna be a great show!
Now you see, challenges like this make sense because Gleeman Vox owns the Asteroid Belt, so again, technically it is his legal property. And therefore, because, the Shadow Sector is on the fringes of the Solana Galaxy, he can pretty much do whatever the fuck he feels like. And again, stuff like this makes sense. I just kinda wish the rest of the game sort of had that reasoning apart from having places, or at least having some challenges take place in parts of the Solana Galaxy that are obviously, within at least what I assume to be, Galactic Ranger space, so to speak. But anyway, I promised that I wasn't going to bitch about Ratchet Deadlocked, and, well, okay, things that I do genuinely like about Deadlocked. Core gameplay, the Scorpion Flail, look at that destruction, especially when you modify the weapon, which... I mean, I suppose if I could say anything about, the modding system, is that, again, if you're willing to put the time in, you can customize your weapons to be, again, really powerful and have a lot of cool perks and bonuses, as I believe is the developer's intent. Yeah, but at the same time, though, it's, I don't know, it just is what it is, really. It's kind of the trouble I have when talking about Deadlocked, because a lot of the good that it has is good that's shared among other Ratchet & Clank games, whereas what it does that is meant to be unique is either something that's cut down or is something where they don't really go far enough, and I say that mainly in terms of tone, storytelling, and that's about it, really. I suppose if I could talk about the gameplay to some other extent, it's not really much of a criticism, but it also doesn't really do much to push the Ratchet & Clank formula forward. Whereas each game beforehand usually did something, like, the first game, set up the basics, Ratchet & Clank 2 expanded upon it, and Ratchet & Clank 3 refined that, so, again, all's good in the hood. Deadlocked, though, doesn't really seem to refine anything, nor give us anything new to do. Which, I mean... yeah, excuse me. Which, I mean, for all the negative things I have to say about Tools of Destruction, at least that game did have you, doing stuff and building upon formulas, like how the Zoni was an evolution across the, Gadgetbot thing, or how, you had a lot of different weapons to play with, even though Tools of Destructions could charitably be called Ratchet & Clank 3, but on the PS3, and not quite as good. But I don't know, I guess that also sort of falls into the argument of games having to justify their existence, which, depending on how you play that shit, is either, well, neither here nor there in this case, in the grand scope of opinionated opinions that we opinionatedly have. Whatevers. Come on, there we go, the field is open and we can now move on to our next challenge. And now I gotta fill up the space with more stuff to say. I suppose I'll also talk about length, because yeah, I did mention that I played and beaten Ratchet Deadlocked in a single day, which was the day that I first got the game. So, oh, actually no, I can't pad out for commentary, because now we can talk about something new. At long last, the hover ship. Yeah, compared to the hover ship you had in Up Your Arsenal, this one does actually see a few refinements. Like, for one thing, it has a similar thing to the Landstalker where, again, you can charge up your missile silos and unleash a powerful barrage against your enemies. You have your basic laser, obviously, and, yeah. Apart from being, like, a slightly bigger ship, with a bigger hitbox, but also a bit more maneuverability options, I do have to wonder, actually, given its design, was there meant to be Starship combat in the game? I'm gonna say no, because I don't recall seeing anything about that in development, but I don't know, given the design of the hover ship and the fact that we're having a stage that does take place in the, the Valix Asteroid Belt, it seems like it would have been perfect opportunity for it, which does actually bring me to a bit of Ratchet Deadlocked trivia. So, who's it? Oh, there we are. As the fact that, again, this game being cut at the seams, obviously Deadlocked had some cut planets that include levels such as Space Galleon, Sky Arena, and Harvest Outpost. Now, two of those, and again, I might be wrong here, but don't two of those sound like Starship levels? Or at the very least, you know, I really don't know. Because, I mean, again, they do also have, racing missions with the hover ship as one of the bonus challenges for the Valix Asteroid Belt, so it does make me wonder that, similar to the hoverbike stuff, was the Starship going to be used for racing challenges, you know, similar to what you would have had in Ratchet 2, or, you know, going around shooting down ships and doing whatever. I mean, I don't know, even if it wasn't technically Starship combat as it would have been in Ratchet & Clank 2 or Tools of Destruction or whatever, I guess maybe they would have been hovership-specific levels? I don't know. I mean, again, the names of those levels don't really give you much of an idea as to what those levels would have been like. Harvest Outpost especially, because, I mean, it seems, I don't know, quite cool. I don't know, maybe there's some concept art floating around in Insomniac's offices? I can't say for sure, but either way, it's a shame we never saw those levels come to fruition. And now, I'm completely out of stuff to say. And I forgot my earlier tangent, so no going back on that now. But yeah, this mission is basically just a basic sort of, there's a group of enemies, go off and shoot them down, which is kind of surprising actually, because I'm surprised they didn't have like a sort of thing where, you know, similar to how you have the dropships dropping enemies off you to fight, they didn't sort of repurpose them into having like, having them be like spaceships that, you know, you can have dogfights with while in the hover ship. I don't know, I feel like it would have been a fun way to, you know, get the most out of your assets while you have them. I mean, even in that case, you possibly could have altered the models a little bit to maybe give them, like, regular lasers on top of missiles. Or maybe have, like, other contestants fight you in their own hover ship. I don't know, I feel like that would have been a fun way to, you know, get the most out of your gameplay. Because, you know, when you do the game thing in your game, it equals good, because game. Whoopee. Nebulous concepts for the win. I suppose this level can also be seen as a bit of a snoozer, since it's basically just, you're in a ship of destruction. There isn't really too much going on in the enemy dynamics, so just hold your finger on the fire button, use the missiles to get things killed quicker. Bada bing, you do the thing, and that's pretty much all she wrote, but I don't know, it is fun to control the hover ship, and it, you know, at least for the sake of varietizing gameplay, in a game that is already heavily relying upon the core gameplay to do a lot of the heavy lifting. It's a fun pace breaker. Yes, a fine pace breaker, my laddie. Sizzling steak. I just sound like a snake, and God forbid all the spittle that's been whittling, like the weather, and the joke of the thing with the lady. Yeah, we still got a bit to go, ladies and gentle dudes, so get comfortable, get a bottle of cocoa, or coffee or whatever. We're in for the long haul here. And we did it! And you can tell, you always know the telltale sign when a commentator's running out of stuff to say. When they start humming along to the music, and that's just, it makes me want to belch, so it does. But yeah, I believe, it's either this mission or the mission after it, which is pretty much our final goal here, so yeah, once we restore power to the lighthouse, which I mean is basically what this is, it's basically a space lighthouse, so yeah, passing ships can go off in peace until, I don't know, the next Dread Zone challenge, so whatever, I suppose. Now for more trivia, because dear god this level is monotonous. Yeah, you might remember right at the beginning of the game actually, the hero that we first saw, Captain Starshield, being eviscerated by Ace Hardlight. Yeah, in terms of promoting Ratchet Deadlocked, there was actually a Captain Starshield prequel webcomic that was obviously used to promote the game. And I used to have it on Insomniac's website, which, again, was something that I literally never heard of until I started doing the research on it. Haven't read it for myself, mind you, because, I mean, I wanted to, but unfortunately I think when Insomniac updated the site, I don't know when this was, I guess maybe when it was, you know, long after Ratchet Deadlocked's development cycle, but yeah. If you wanted to read the Captain Starshield prequel comic, it's now lost to time. Unless maybe they might have saved it on the Ratchet & Clank wiki, or like somebody saved it on like a Google Drive or something, somewhere down the line. Whatever. I mean, again, I don't think it, or at least based on what I read up anyway, the prequel comic doesn't really contain much substantial. It was pretty much just a, you know, thing about Captain Starshield going from planet to planet, doing, you know, his own little adventures until, I believe it explains at least how we got into Dreadzone to begin with, which was, again, he was responding to a fake distress call where Dreadzone then captured him and forced him to compete in the games. But yeah, apart from that, there's nothing really too significant about it, apart from one thing that the webcomic did mention, which is actually called, when Captain Starshield encountered creatures called Cragmites. Which again, if you know your Ratchet & Clank mythology, the name of the main villains of Tools of Destruction. I mean, it is spelled differently. I think in Tools of Destruction, Cragmites is spelled with a C, whereas in the webcomic it's a K, but it does make me wonder if some of the gears were turning in Insomniac's brain. I don't know. It's a fun little bit of history, and it does also kind of bring me back to a time long since past, actually. At least when developers used to have, like, dedicated website with a bunch of little hidden goodies to find. Because, I mean, I seem to remember, like, again, I was watching a video recently based on, like, lost Spyro Flash games. Again, not that you can see these websites anymore, but I do remember, I think it was Sparks Pond. But yeah, you could basically play that on the official Insomniac Games Spyro website. Well, at least the one that used to be there before the web server shut down a long time ago. And even then, you probably can't even play Sparks Pond now, even if you use the Wayback Machine or whatever, because, again, as we all know, 3 years ago now, Flash players are a thing of the past. But again, it really is a bit of a shame, actually, because, again, I always liked when developers just did cool hidden shit like that. I mean, you don't see that on, like, professional game developer websites anymore. I guess maybe because there's no real way to monetize, nor much of an incentive for developers to make these, you know, cheap Flash games for their websites, but I don't know, it's just a bit of a fun thing, really, and I miss it. Well, I mean, I don't wholeheartedly miss it, but I mean, it's... I guess for more, if anything else, it's just just an era of a time long since past, and oh dear, it makes me sad, so it does. But yeah, this is pretty much all we have. Oh, look, it's the Ratchet & Clank 1, or is that Ratchet & Clank 2? Oh, whatever, it's a lift thing that they reused from a previous game. Because asset, baby. Oh yeah, look at this great platforming action. I mean, again, I'm being facetious, I mean, but... like, I mean, again, it is, you know, something to be said about inputs, doing different things, making the brain do a thing to spark your imagination. Then again, I suppose that really is... fuck it. I'm trying to make commentary out of nothing here. Would you believe that Ratchet Deadlocked is short? Because again, from the way I'm talking, I'm running out of things to say. But the game itself, again, when you're playing it, is just sort of an experience where you go, huh, is that it? Whatever. Which, I mean, I suppose is why Insomniac did make the wise decision to call it a spin-off as opposed to Ratchet & Clank 4. Because, again, if this was called Ratchet & Clank 4, I imagine the hostility towards the game probably would have been a lot harsher than, in fact, it would have been. Not that it's really the case nowadays, because I guess maybe because this is the last time the series ever really associated with its PS2 era humor and tone, it sort of gets a pass from people in the modern day. Oh, well, I suppose the fact that it's actually good is also another thing to consider, because Size Matters and Secret Agent Clank also have the PS2 Ratchet tone, and woohoo, it is, how you say, crap. But I don't know. What's this? Ooh, gravity boots. A way to do functionally the same thing and just climb on walls. They really don't get as much use out of the gravity boots as I think they should in this game, which is well, kind of saddening because they don't really do anything cool with it, like, you know, having you slowly go around and going clink clonk in Ratchet 1, or, you know, having any trippy visuals like the Courtney Gears level in Ratchet 3, so, yeah, it just sort of is, really. Which, I mean, again, it kind of puts me in a bit of a rock and a hard place, because, I mean, they do still have stuff like, you know, rail grinding, swing shots, and, you know, gravity boots and all the gadgets from the previous games, but they don't really use them in any sort of creative platforming challenges, nor any real interesting way, which is, to me, again, I don't want to say that they shouldn't have included them at all, but at the same time though, if you're not going to do anything interesting with them, you know, compared to what we've seen in previous games, then really, what's sort of the point? You know, because, I mean, with the gravity boots, like, I mean, as I mentioned before, in Ratchet & Clank 1, they were sluggish and very sort of clink-clonk, clink-clonk. But again, Ratchet & Clank 2 and 3 had them sort of spiral and twist into, you know, specific areas, or, you know, having you run down buildings or whatever. And stuff like that is cool from, like, a, you know, sort of extreme dude sort of perspective, and Deadlock doesn't really do much with it. Like, I mean, even with the swing shots, you're not, you know, zipping from building to building or doing something that, you know, would at least look something like an action scene out of a movie or whatever. It's just sort of, okay, here's some swing shot targets. Swing down a basic chain and just do a thing. Whoopee. And again, I know the reason why. Insomniac, rush development cycle, yada yada yada, focus on action, no time for platforming. But again, at the same time, it's, I feel like it could have been used to at least make a little bit more variety in the level challenges. Of maybe at least using the basic platforming elements to have, you know, more specific obstacle course challenges that would have at least satisfied people going, oh yes, well Ratchet Deadlocked doesn't have any platforming, yes, bad game. And again, that might be a little bit too harsh on my part, but again, you have these mechanics, you can easily construct, you know, very basic set pieces, so, you know, just try being a little bit more creative, I suppose. I don't know if I mentioned this last part actually, but there is actually one mechanic that I think Ratchet... Yeah, I did mention it beforehand, but the removal of the wall jump. Which again, I think is a bit of a shame. I don't think it would have taken much to really implement it, so... I don't know, maybe you could have used that to maybe create a challenge similar to scaling the Tower of Power. You know, maybe having it be like this very platforming focus, you know, use the swing shot targets to actually get to the place, use some, you know, rail grinding to, you know, surf your way up the tower, and then of course use, you know, swing shot targets to jump to and fro between places, use some wall jumping action. I don't know. It would have been a nice way to utilize some of your basic mechanics, but sadly, no dice. Go away, go away, go away. I really wish I had more to say, but the Scorpion Flail... Again, like, I mean, even when it's underpowered, as I learned in a recent playthrough, like, I mean, it does still put the work in, it does some pretty decent damage, so, yeah, if you're looking for a melee weapon to use, Scorpion Flail's pretty sick, dude. Ah, yes. Did you see? Nerd? Node, not nerd. Okay, that's enough Metal Gear Solid 2 action for one day. Have some more tangents, but I think I'll save them for next time, because, dear god, this part was a fucking shit show. And I will not taint the planet Torival with my evil, lack of things to say, ways. Yeah, by the way, that fist thing tells him to put up the shield. Took me a long while to get to it, but I got there in the end, and thankfully Michael Jackson's not around. Yes, I'm still referencing Holding Your Ground songs. Will somebody please kill me? And on that note, I'm Solidus-Skully, keep it new metal, and next time on the Ratchet Deadlocked commentary, we're gonna see my least favorite cutscene in the game. Catch you later.